Happy Sunday, and welcome everyone to episode 35 of Video Game Club. As always, I'm your host Tyler, and I have with me today Samus Aran's long-distance boyfriend, Austin.
Oh, yes.
What does that even mean?
And it would not... Hello, sir. And it would not be a Video Game Club episode without ZDR's number one tourist, Mox.
Oh, thank you. Hello.
And we have a very, very special guest today, all the way from outer space, joining us from the deepest, darkest depths of outer space, Daniel.
From inside of Kraid's belly button.
How's everyone doing today? Is everyone doing well?
Great.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, Daniel, of course. Daniel, can you, introduce yourself and
Who
you know?
are you?
Yeah, who are you?
No, I'm Daniel Barnett. I'm here today specifically because I am the co-host of a podcast known as Nerd Association. To play on word association, it's very clever. And at Nerd Association, we believe that if you're passionate about something, that makes you a nerd, and that's not a dirty word. Anybody can be a nerd about something, right? And so we talk about pop culture, we talk about things like Marvel, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and video games occasionally, although not with the level of knowledge or expertise of this group. So I am the I am the newbie here, and I am pleased to be here to talk about a very cool game. So thanks for having me.
Of
Welcome.
course.
We're so
Yeah.
happy to have you.
Yay!
Yes. Yeah, super happy. So as a reminder for today's episode, the nominations that were nominated by me were Metroid Dread, Dead Space 2, and Alan Wake. And of course, Metroid Dread was the winner, and so that's what we will be talking about. But before we get started talking about Metroid Dread, what have you been playing, Austin?
Oh, I've been... This isn't a game, but I've been putting together the NES Lego set, and I've been having a blast with that. I finished up the NES section. I'm working on the TV now, and there's all these cool little secrets in the NES set that I didn't know about ahead of time. I won't spoil it. I could tell you, Tyler, offline if you're never going to build it yourself, but just some really cool stuff there. I've been having a blast with that.
That's awesome.
I've also been playing some Knockout City, trying to work on the new season of that.
Have you what about Death Stranding? Have you started that, or?
I have not made any more progress in that, but I had already started it before it got picked, and I think I was on chapter 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I'm past, there's one chapter early on that's just, really long. Really, really long. And I'm past that, so I should be able to start breezing through it pretty soon here.
Awesome. Mox, what have you been playing?
Aside from Final Fantasy and Genshin Impact, I've been playing a lot of Solitaire.
Solitaire Conspiracy, or just straight up Solitaire?
Just, I don't know, some random, app that I found. Just playing Solitaire. I just love Solitaire. Klondike, 3-card flip, it's the only way.
Every once in a while, I just get into, a kick of free cell. I know what you mean.
That's awesome. Daniel, what have you been playing?
Other than Metroid Dread, which we're talking about today, I don't know if I'm the only person, but I know I'm one of the people who isn't quite finished with it yet. But I'm also preparing for the new Animal Crossing New Horizons update by diving back into my island and, making some changes and freshening things up.
Saying hello to your villagers.
Yeah, just hey, what's up? And they're like, oh, for me, it had only been a few weeks. I've been trying to touch base with them every, couple of weeks, even when I'm not playing regularly, just they don't get too lonely. Gotta keep Raymond happy,
Oh my god, I can't believe Raymond.
But I am also super excited for the N64 expansion, which we don't have to talk too much about, but looking forward to having those games on Switch. And I've been playing a mobile game called BeatStar, which is like Guitar Hero for your thumbs.
Oh my goodness.
And so that's I mean, I know that's not probably your cup of tea here, but it's one of those, I have 3 minutes or 4 minutes and I want to do something to entertain myself. So yeah.
BeatStar? I'll have to check it out. I'm a big rhythm game fan, so.
it's pretty good. Like I said, I played a ton of Guitar Hero and Rock Hero.
Yeah, what's
back
the
in day, so
Austin? What's the drum game?
Taiko Drum Master?
Yeah, there's a mobile port of that I played
Oh.
for a bit, and it was really fun. Anyway, as I mentioned before, this is Video Game Club, where every 2 weeks we discuss a game voted on by our wonderful friends in the Bombchu Discord and discuss that game right here on twitch.tv/BombchuTV. And if you can't catch us live, no problem. You can find us on youtube.com and all major podcast services. Just search Bombchu Video Game Club. You will find it through the power of search. Now, let's jump into Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread is an action adventure, or if you prefer the term, Metroidvania. It was developed by Mercury Steam, and also Nintendo also played a little role, and we'll talk a little bit more about Mercury Steam later because it's very interesting that they developed this game. It was also published by Nintendo and released on October 8th, 2021. The engine that it uses, I believe, is a custom engine that they developed. So what has been going on this year in gaming? Well, hardware. We got the Switch OLED, and I have one, and I love it to death.
Is it much different?
Yes, I think so. It feels... I was talking with Austin a bit about this. It feels of quality. Like, it is like... I don't know if it's a hard plastic or an aluminum shell or something, but it is like a lot heavier. The screen looks very nice. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of playing my Switch portably. Like, I preferred it on the TV, but now I kind of prefer to play it portably. Because
I prefer it portably even now. Does that mean I need to get one of these?
It's pretty nice. It is like really nice. And the screen's a little bit bigger. But yeah, I really, really love it. No regrets on the purchase. And it just took forever to get one. The Atari VCS came out this year. And
We can bring that up every time we talk about games that have come out this year.
Technically shipped out to early access last year in December.
and this is exactly what Austin says every single time. The Evercade VS came out recently. I think it just came out. And then we have, fingers crossed, the Steam Deck is still on the way. Hopefully,
December, baby.
To some people. And the Playdate is still supposedly coming this year, which I'm very excited about. Software released this year. Well, there's been a lot of software, but some other games, just some notable ones. Yakuza Like a Dragon, Resident Evil Village, Returnal, Skyward Sword HD, Far Cry 6, and many, many more. Plus, a game we have played already for Video Game Club. What is that game, Mox?
Oh my god. Is it... the Famicom!
Did that game come out this year? I missed that
Didn't
one
it?
then.
Oh, I thought it did.
I thought it came out last year.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't
really?
know why I thought it came out last year as well. But I was honestly surprised when you said Yakuza Like a Dragon came out this year.
Yeah, seriously.
Death's Door.
Death's
Oh, that's
Door.
Death's Door.
Have you played it, Daniel?
Oh, I love Death's Door. Yeah, I was obsessed with that game.
So good.
Yeah.
It was, yes, very good. If you are wanting to hear about what is Death's Door and why was Daniel obsessed with it, we have a Video Game Club episode of that you can listen to, and yeah, it's really fun. All right, so Metroid Dread. It's a Metroid game where you play as Samus Aran and you explore the planet ZDR.
Boy, is it ever a Metroid game.
I feel like you can't call it a Metroid game because, you can't call it Metroidvania because that suggests it's Metroidvania-like.
Yeah, I do disagree with
Yeah.
that moniker for this.
Yeah. But it's a side, it retains the side-scrolling gameplay of previous Metroid games, so it's not like a Metroid Prime. It's a side-scroller instead of first person. You have free aim and the melee attacks and the parrying, which was in Samus Returns, which is the Metroid 2 remake that was on the 3DS. Did anybody play that here? I did not.
I did.
And
I loved it. It was very divisive.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're remaking Metroid 2, which is a game about going and hunting down 40 of essentially the same boss,
Yeah.
it's a Game Boy game. How do you remake that and make it fun? It's like, I think the stuff that they added was really good. The structure is hard to really make different. They got to add in some really cool bosses in there. I think overall it was really for what they were trying to do. That was I was very impressed with that one.
Mox, did you play it?
This game? Dread
No.
is my first Metroid game. I'm just
Okay. Daniel,
So
were you a 3DS person? And
No, likewise, this is my first Metroid game ever.
oh, awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So I'm wanting to play it now after finishing this game, but we will see. But yeah, it's your standard Metroid Dread is your standard Metroid game where you explore, you get new items and weapons, and that allows you to access new areas. One of the things that Metroid Dread adds to the Metroid formula is some stealth elements, where you have to avoid these robots called. Do they explain what the acronym is for? But EMMI, Emmy,
Yeah.
the Emmy robots.
Yeah, it's some convoluted. It's one of those forced acronyms that it's like we
Yeah.
clearly just wanted to call it Emmy and then had to come up with it in reverse.
It's like, like they mimic or I don't know. Oh, here, extraplanetary multiform mobile identifier.
There
Yeah,
you go.
Exactly.
What she said. Yeah, it's one of the new power-ups that you get is the Phantom Cloak, which allows you to become invisible. It also slows down your movement, but you can hide from the Emmys, and it also lets you get past certain doors that you couldn't get past before. If an Emmy catches you, you have 2 very, very tiny chances to perform a counter and escape. I was sort of successful towards the end of doing that, but it was very, very hard. If you fail at this, you die. They are very generous with where you start. You don't have to go all the way back to a save point, which is really nice. You just
Basically like right outside the Emmy zone.
Yeah.
If you die to an Emmy, for example.
The Emmys can be destroyed by getting this upgrade called the Omega Blaster. But as soon as you use it and destroy something, it goes away. Typically, when you destroy an Emmy, you get a new permanent upgrade, and that lets you access new areas. Rinse and repeat until you get to the final boss. That is essentially the game in a nutshell. Now, let's talk about the development really quickly.
Is this going to be real quick?
Well, I shortened it a little bit.
Okay.
But first, I just want to talk about Mercury Steam. So they are a studio that was founded in 2002 based in Madrid, Spain. They have 160 employees. The first game that they released was in 2004, and it was called American McGee Presents Scrapland. I'm betting nobody here played that, but they did make the 3 Castlevania Lord of Shadow games, which I bet at least Austin, you probably played one of those.
I played all 3 of those.
And I heard they weren't great.
The first one is pretty interesting. There's a sequel, Lords of Shadow 2, which is a really cool idea and something I've never seen done with Castlevania before. But ultimately, it's just not very fun.
Yeah.
And then they had kind of the handheld spin-off on 3DS that was more of a side-scrolling. That one I guess was a Metroidvania. It's Castlevania with and I mean it wasn't my favorite or anything like that, but it worked. It was fine. It was a lot better than the sequel to Lords of Shadow.
Yeah. Daniel, are you a big Castlevania person?
No, I'm not. I'm interested in the lore of Castlevania, but I will admit I've never played a Castlevania. It's one of those games that I feel like I would love, but just haven't gotten around to.
Yeah, I feel you. I've only dabbled a bit, and I haven't tried the Lord of Shadows games. Mox, I'm going to assume you did not play.
Nope.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart's in it.
Oh, Sir Patrick Stewart!
Yeah.
I love him.
Well, now that is a selling point. You have just made it more enticing to jump in on this.
Yeah.
They also made the Samus Returns remake of Metroid 2 as well for 3DS, and of course Dread. In 2015, though, before making Samus Returns, they actually pitched a remake of Metroid Fusion to Nintendo, which would have been really interesting. But unfortunately, Nintendo rejected it, but they were like, well, let's collab instead on Samus Returns. And so after the success of Samus Returns, they then of course, talked to them about making Metroid Dread as well. Now... And
Metroid Dread kind of came out of nowhere.
Kind of, not exactly.
Well, you know more about this than I do, but I know it just surprised a lot of people, even in the industry, that this was announced all of a sudden.
So, yes, it did, and that is because it was rumored for a very, very, very long time. It was supposed to be the DS sequel to Metroid Fusion. And everyone thought, like, oh, this is a game that you'll never play. Like, I don't know if they announced... Yeah, they announced the game. I'm gonna get there, but basically they announced it in 2000. They had like, oh, these are the games that are coming out in 2005. I think it was 2005, and then in 2006 they did like another thing of like, these are the games that are coming out, and it like wasn't there, and people were just like, oh, This game disappeared. It must have been canceled, and so there was some rumors going around, and yeah, we'll get there. But it's been. Were you gonna say something, Austin?
No, I was basically what you were saying. Like, this was supposed to come out a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we mentioned just now, like it was supposed to be a sequel to Metroid Fusion on the DS. Sakamoto, the Metroid producer, didn't want Dread to be like a horror game, but he wanted it to be like, he wanted to explore some like fear-based gameplay elements, which I think the Emmys like capture pretty well. Sakamoto attempted to have Dread developed for the DS at least twice, but the technology was too limited to create the game that he envisioned. The first attempt was in 2005, and then a second attempt in 2008. There was a playable prototype that was shown off to Nintendo of America staff at E3 2009. The project was not titled Metroid Dread at that point, but it had an art style similar to Metroid Fusion. The prototype, however, did not meet Sakamoto's expectations, so development was halted. A major reason for this was that Sakamoto's desire for an intimidating, unsettling antagonist was difficult to achieve with the DS hardware, so the whole Emmy thing was very hard for some reason with the DS. By late 2005, rumors started to spread that Metroid Dread had been canceled or was in development hell. And then in 2010, there was an interview where Sakamoto said that Nintendo would start from scratch if they would return to the Dread project. He also said that they were, watching and reading comments from fans to see if people were interested about like what that project could have been. He also denied that the Wii game Metroid Other M and the 3DS game Metroid Samus Returns were connected to Dread, which I think is kind of funny because I believe in Metroid Other M there was like a little Easter egg to Dread that like people played dumb to. It talked about how there was like a Dread project or something. Austin, are you aware of this?
I thought that was in one of the Prime games, but
maybe it was one of the Prime. Maybe it was.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but either way, they like kind of played dumb, and it got translated to like in the Japanese version. It said something else, so that it could have been like a translation thing. But yeah, there was a lot of interest in Metroid Dread, or a similar 2D side-scrolling Metroid project, especially after Samus Returns. People were like, "Yeah, 2D Metroid, it's still a thing. It would be really great to have like a new one." And then, just like Daniel kind of mentioned, boom, E3 2021, this year, June 15th, Nintendo was like, yeah, Metroid Dread, it's coming.
In October. 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of crazy how that happened. And like we already mentioned, it was developed by Mercury's team. which is the same studio who did Samus Returns. Sakamoto said that they chose to revive the project after seeing what Mercury Steam could do with the technology on the Switch. It's really interesting, the whole story of like this project, because I know that I remember reading at the time, like on websites and stuff, it was like one of the this is one of the games that you'll never play that is supposed to be really good. Like there was all this hype for this canceled thing because people just love this series like so much. So like any like, you know, back to roots 2D Metroid game, people were just going crazy over. But
well, it's also such an intriguing title. It's like after playing everything else, Metroid Dread. Like, oh, it's ominous, and the fact that you don't even know what's in there. It's this canceled game that you're never gonna see. It's just like, oh, what could be in there?
Yeah. And what's also interesting is like this is the most recent original 2D Metroid game since Fusion for the Game Boy Advance, so it's been a while. A long time.
Unless you count the remake of 1 with Zero Mission, but that's a remake that doesn't count.
I don't count it.
Yeah. But yeah, if we're not counting
like original stories.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it is now that time to put on that spoiler tag. If you don't want the story to be spoiled for you, I recommend tuning out right now for a bit. We will turn the spoiler tag off whenever we're done talking about spoilers. And if you are really into the lore of this game, I would recommend, if you want to know what happens, this game is kind of spoilery because it's the conclusion of I think they said Samus Aran's story?
No, I think it was the conclusion of the story that I forget how they put it, but it basically, even in the trailer for this, they called it Metroid 5. So in terms of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is the last of the numbered games in that series. But it sounds like they'll still keep going with Samus just doing other stuff, maybe.
All right, so let's talk about the plot a little bit. Mox, you're totally cool if we spoil this, right?
Please do.
Okay. Austin, you are our resident Metroid fan, I feel. So,
sure.
If please feel free to elaborate on anything or expand.
I haven't played everything, but I have played all of the numbered entries 1 through 5. This being 5. I haven't played all the Prime games or other, or Metroid Prime Pinball. But
well, you're missing some pinball lore.
I was gonna say that's the most important game in the series.
And at this point, there's a ball save. Gosh.
I do have to ask. I mean, presumably you are Samus in ball form is the pinball, right? Like that has to be the case.
Oh.
Yeah. As far as I know.
Thank God, because if not, the $1 million idea.
And Nintendo can have it for half of that.
For free.
Oh, for free? Oh.
Well,
I mean, how am I going to enforce that?
They'll
Nintendo,
just sue
I
you for the
said
other
it.
half, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Nintendo, I said it on a podcast. You got to give it to me.
All right, so let's talk about this story a bit. So the Galactic Federation receives video evidence that the X, a dangerous species of parasite that can mimic any creature it infects, survives on the remote planet ZDR. They dispatch 7 Emmys there, they're robots, to ZDR to investigate, but they lose contact with them shortly after. Which seems to be a thing when you send robots to other planets, you seem to lose contact with them. And so they send Samus Aran to ZDR to investigate. She encounters a do you know how to pronounce the Chozo?
I always said Kozo, but
What?
apparently it's supposed to be Chozo, which bothers me a lot. So
Okay.
I still just keep saying Kozo because that's a lot cooler. But everyone corrects me and says, "No, it's Chozo." And even in the voice lines in here, they say Chozo.
Oh, they do. Okay.
That's the only reason I know it's Chozo.
Okay. Well, Samus encounters a Chozo warrior deep underground who destroys the exit and defeats her in combat and strips her suit of most of its abilities. And I want to stop right there. And I want to say, isn't this a thing that always happens?
Yes. Every Metroid game, you start off, something happens, you lose all your abilities.
And doesn't this have to happen forever for it to be like a typical Metroid game?
Even in this one, I was like, "Are you serious?" Like,
I laughed very hard at the line that was like, "It's like amnesia, but for your body."
yeah,
I'm like, okay, that's on the nose, huh?
yeah.
It's just interesting, like, because they have like a lot of lore in this series now. They like have done a lot of games. It's got to go. Like, they need, maybe there's a different type of game that's not like your typical, in quotes, Metroidvania that they can do where you have all your abilities, but something else happens. It's a different game.
Yeah.
But we will see. Anyway,
Just one quick note. The reason that Samus is the one sent down here is Samus is particularly equipped to deal with the X parasite.
She's
because of. Sorry, go ahead.
She's immune, right?
Yeah. So in Fusion, at the start of Fusion, something happens and they have to do surgery on her. Basically, imbue her with Metroid DNA because Metroid are able to feed on these X parasites, and so she ends up being the one sent to go take care of the X in Fusion because she can absorb them, whereas everyone else they can just mimic and copy and kill them. So she is very specially equipped to deal with X parasites.
So after this encounter with the Chozo and she's stripped of everything, she's instructed by her ship's computer, Adam, to find another path to the surface and return to her ship. On the way there, she's attacked by an Emmy, which has been reprogrammed to consider her hostile. She escapes and is able to absorb this mysterious energy, which gives her the temporary ability of the Omega Blaster, which, as we already mentioned, is used to destroy the Emmy. And then whenever she destroys an Emmy, she regains some of her abilities. The Emmy just has her abilities, Austin?
I mean, I think each Emmy is supposed to be like equipped to deal with something different, and for reasons and wibbly wobbly, you kill the Emmy, and it happens to be an ability that is useful to you.
How convenient.
Yeah.
Am I correct in saying though that the Phantom Cloak and the Flash, those are not things Samus has had before?
Yeah, those are new.
No.
So the abilities you're getting from the Emmys are actually not Samus's abilities. They're these new abilities that are new to the series.
Some of them are.
Yeah.
Like one of them lets you freeze things when you shoot them. Like, that's not new.
Yeah, okay. That's a good point.
Different things like that. So some of them are new, some of them are old.
Gotcha.
So after a while of exploring, you're captured by another Emmy, but you're saved by a Chozo named Quiet Robe, who deactivates that Emmy to save you. Quiet Robe explains that long ago, two Chozo tribes, the scientific Toha and warrior Makin, banded together to trap the Metroids on the planet SR-388. The Toha intended to destroy SR-388, but Ravenbeak, who's the Malkin leader, wanted to use the Metroids as a bioweapon to conquer the galaxy. People be getting greedy up in here. He slaughtered the Toha tribe, spared Quiet Robe so that the Metroids could be controlled with his Toha DNA. He planned to use ZDR to house Metroids, but had to contain an infestation of the X while Samus eradicated the Metroids from SR-388. Ravenbeak reprogrammed the Emmy robots and lured Samus to ZDR to extract the Metroid DNA implanted in her during the events of Fusion, which would allow him to revive the Metroids. So this kind of goes back to what you were saying before, Austin.
Yeah.
And so essentially Samus was tricked. Baited, I guess, to come here and so that he could get her DNA, because she is the strongest Metroid, right?
I think she's the only remaining piece of Metroid DNA.
Yeah.
Like, all the other Metroids have been destroyed.
Quiet Robe opens a barrier that allows Samus to progress right before he is assassinated by one of Ravenbeak's robotic soldiers. Adam encourages Samus to defeat Ravenbeak and destroy ZDR. And then in one of the regions, you start to encounter the X parasites, and they like I'm like still a little fuzzy like how this happens, but like somehow like you go to like one area and then all of a sudden when you kill things, different things happen, and they start these little parasites start to like infect the creatures there, and they kind of like change a bit.
Yeah, so I thought the X were all like unleashed
Already?
Well, no, just like you hit a point, and I thought there was a moment where like X parasites are then
That sounds right.
unleashed into the environment, and then basically with how fast they replicate, they just go take over all the enemies. And so usually X versions are like a little bit stronger, a little bit different. So when you're going back through the existing areas, it's like it's the stuff you've been fighting, but it's a little bit different. It's a little stronger. Behaves a little bit differently.
Yeah. Unfortunately, one possesses Quiet Robe's corpse, and then the remaining Emmy is reactivated, and you have to destroy it. Samus, then you slowly like make your way to the surface, and then you're attacked by the last of the Emmy, and Samus destroys it by like sucking up the energy with her hand, which is kind of crazy, and it's a power that she gained from the Metroid DNA. And as a side effect of that, she is slowly becoming a Metroid.
And if you haven't played another Metroid game before, then basically the Metroid's main form of attack is they latch onto things and just suck the energy out of them. So that's kind of where that comes from.
Okay. That makes sense. You then go up to the top. There's this floating fortress where you confront Ravenbeak, who has been masquerading as Adam. Now I want to stop here. Is it implied that this has been happening this whole time?
Okay.
Because I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I was reading something and it was like, it was Adam the whole time. And I was like, I don't think so. One thing I noticed during that cutscene, so every time that you go talk to Adam, you like put your arm cannon into the data port and go have an exchange.
Yep.
And in that particular cutscene, your arm cannon doesn't go into it correctly, and Adam is talking very differently, and so I'm pretty sure that is the only moment where Ravenbeak is pretending to be Adam. That's my headcanon. Somebody else can come at me with some other evidence, but immediately at the start of that cutscene, I was like, something's not right here. Like something's different.
Yeah, why would I feel like Adam was being so helpful before.
Yeah, and on top of that, so, okay, a little story lore thing. Multiple times he calls you lady, which is what he does. So, lore thing, Adam, this AI is working with you in Metroid Fusion, and for a good chunk of it, you're like, this guy reminds me of my old commanding officer, Adam. And that guy always called me lady, and they go into that further with Metroid Other M, like that actual character's there. It's confirmed part of the way through Fusion. This actually is an AI version of Adam, and he starts calling you lady from then on. And so that, I don't know why Ravenbeak would know about that or mimic that. So, there's lots of little things. It's just like, I don't have any reason to believe that the rest of these appearances from Adam were fake.
Yeah. You then, once you encounter Ravenbeak, Ravenbeak reveals that whenever you had the first encounter with him, that he spared you on purpose so that you would slowly awaken all of your Metroid powers, and at which point you would become so strong, and then he would clone Samus to make an army of the most powerful Metroid that exists. It is also revealed that Ravenbeak was a DNA donor for Samus when she was first accepted into the Chozo, and he considers her his daughter.
Bum bum bum.
And then you fight. Is that Austin, as someone who's pretty familiar with the lore, is that are there hints of Samus's origin?
She was essentially raised by the Chozo, yeah, and I think her power suit was made by them. and like there's a lot of Chozo technology in there. Like the morph ball, for example, I believe came from them, because it's like how do you put a person into a ball form without crushing them? They have some kind of mystical technology.
Okay.
They go into depth on that in Zero Mission.
Okay. You then have to battle Ravenbeak, and that battle is. We'll talk about that later. But you battle Ravenbeak. You're nearly killed. But the Metroid abilities like give you like this crazy power, where you're able to like fully destroy Ravenbeak. At the time, like whenever that happens, the fortress crashes into the planet, and then you have to. Then Ravenbeak gets infected by an X parasite, and you use your new powers to destroy him. And I failed at that whenever that happened, and I was so worried that I was going to have to do the whole boss battle over again. I did not, thank God.
Yeah.
You then
also just to note, that suit that you transform into is just like it's the green and the red. It's just like the perfect embodiment of Metroid. So like that's kind of to symbolize that you've gone full Metroid mode,
and you're super powerful.
Yes.
And you then have to run through. There's like this self-destruct sequence that's happening. You have to run through, and you're like super fast, and it blocks like some routes, and some routes it doesn't. But your cannon is like insanely strong. You then get to your ship, and then you realize that you can't like power on your ship because of the because you're like full on Metroid now. So basically, if you touch something,
if you touch it, you're gonna drain the whole ship.
Yeah. So then maybe you can explain this part to me at the end, Austin, here, because like Quiet Robe appears, and then something happens, and he like absorbs your power or something, or you like. How does it work to where she can leave on the ship?
Yeah, I that's where I tried to go look up an explanation on the ending and saw the whole thing. It was like Adam was a fake the whole time. So Quiet Robe somehow, I guess, exerts his will over the X parasite that takes him.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe his will, or like some of his like some part of him is in that X parasite, I guess. If he was able to control it that much, the X parasite comes out, she absorbs the X parasite, and it chills her out, I guess. That was the best that I could really put together. It's not explained, but just it was. I was like, well, okay, it works. It works for me.
Yeah.
I don't know all the mechanics behind it, but I'll take it.
And that is the plot of Metroid Dread in a nutshell. Is there anything spoilery that anyone would like to add, Austin?
Kraid is in this game. I guess he's in the trailers, but why the heck is Kraid in this game? I thought he died in Super Metroid.
I mean, as we all did. Daniel, anything that you'd like to add, or Mox?
No, I mean, I think that's the broad strokes, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot in the middle that's just, you're crawling through the maps, and it's fun, but like, there's not a whole lot of story element to that.
Samus does talk a few times in this game.
Oh yeah, that's true.
She, other than Other M, she hasn't really had a voice. In Fusion, she kind of has some like internal monologue, but it's all done through text on the GBA. And here she actually does have like a handful of voice lines, which is pretty cool. Those are all very cool moments.
Yeah, I really liked the cutscenes in this game. I thought they were really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to release and reception. I will turn off the spoiler tag here. So how did it review? Pretty favorable. People really liked the boss fights. They felt like the Metroidvania formula was mastered with this one. They liked that there was lots of choice, that it rewarded you for exploring. Some things that people weren't super keen on was that the difficulty was very frustrating, which we'll definitely go more into detail on that here in a bit. That the boss fights were forced, which like I think I don't is that a con? I don't know, but
yeah, I'm confused on that.
yeah, that the Emmy robots were kind of boring, and that some of the textures look kind of bad when blown up. How did it sell? 86,000 copies sold at launch in Japan, and Dread already outsold the life-to-date sales of nearly every game in the series in Japan in its first week.
Wow.
Woo.
That's pretty crazy to think about. So now it is time to get into our hot takes. And Mox, I would like to start with you.
Okay. I was convinced to play this game because I was told it'd be like Axiom Verge, which I really liked, which would make sense because Axiom Verge was a Metroidvania, and this is Metroid. But this game was so tough. I just am so bad at games. He's in the trailer. I had died, 3,000 times to Kraid. I probably spent an hour to 2 hours just brute forcing that. Didn't work. Couldn't get through it. And then I was like Googling, how do I beat Kraid? And then there was like, well, you could keep brute forcing it, or you could try and go do this equally tough, like, what's it called? Like, get an early thing and then do a quick kill. And I was like, whatever, I'll do that. So then I was just brute forcing this one jump you have to do where you fall in the lava, and then you have to backtrack like 30 screens to get back to that same jump until you make it. And then I made it, and I got all the things, and then I was able to do the quick kill. And then it's like, I spent just the same amount of time, doing that as I did the other things. And then, the next battle or whatever, just still probably beating my head against a wall, not sure what to do. Just got through it, luckily. And then after that, I got stuck on this one boss, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's just like a job. I already have a job. I don't want to have a job when I play a game. So I probably put like over 10 hours of thought and emotion and also playing into this game, but I've definitely not played like 10 hours of like successful game. But in any case, I did like it, aside from when I hated it. The story was good. I liked it, like it looks nice. I like how it's like a 2D game, but everything's still really like 3D in terms of the environment. I guess I shouldn't say it, but it reminded me of Axiom Verge, which I really like. But of course, I think one influenced the other.
Yep.
I got so confused because you use both triggers, the ZR and an R, and then ZL and L, and I just couldn't get a motor memory going to remember which one did what, and that is pretty much what got me like throughout the game. What I just couldn't get it.
That also took me a while to get my head around as well.
I just wish there was an easier way. I don't know. I couldn't think of an easier way of how I wish. You can't. First of all, you can't rebind any controls, which sucks because when you hold down a button too, it charges it up rather than just continuous fire. But sometimes I want a continuous fire, so I just have to tap, and my hands hurt so much.
Yeah.
This is not a game that's friendly for people who are old. But anyway, otherwise I liked it. The music's great. I like the storyline. That voice acting is good. I really like Adam's like weird AI drone. And I like the environments and how every environment's different. I don't know anything about the story, and I was weird. It weirded me out that the game's called Metroid, but then there's no Metroids in it. But then you learn more about Metroids later in the game, which makes it make more sense. But for someone who's never played any Metroid games, I was like, aren't they a thing? Don't I fight them? Where are they? No, not in the game. Other than that, I liked it. I just wish it was easier. Like in Final Fantasy XIV, if you fail a dungeon or a boss fight, several times the game's like, don't you want to play it on easy mode? You'll have so much more fun if you play it on easy mode. But this game had no cool about that, no chill. It was just like, you gotta throw your head against the wall. There was one boss battle where you have to start outside of a room when you fail it, and then I failed it so many times that it eventually moved me inside the room. So I didn't have to go as far to die. I guess that was the easy mode. Other than that,
that's cool.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that. That's really cool.
I don't know. Maybe just the game pity. I probably
the thing with
40 deaths
that you were talking about with Kraid. That sounds like you did like a sequence break that was like intentional-ish.
It was the only way I could beat him.
Yeah.
It is an intentional thing that they put in for speedrunners. Like, there's even like there's a special thing that happens in the room, and like
gross.
a special
He has a special
kill
death
animation
yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that's especially with how many people speedrun Super
There's also
Metroid.
some sequence breaking that they did not anticipate that people are doing too, which is
For
pretty
sure.
crazy. A buddy of
It's my
mine
favorite speed-
was able to I don't think he's like a huge speedrunner, but he was able to beat the game in like 2 hours, I think.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm
it
dead.
took me 2 hours to get through Kraid.
Dead serious. Yeah, I was impressed. I was like, I haven't even beaten it yet, so wow. That's impressive.
Oh my god! And the last thing I want to say is about the Emmys. I don't understand. It's like a stealth game, but I'm trying to stealth it, and then I get caught, and like there's nowhere to hide. Like I'm used to Metal Gear Solid, where you can stealth or you can fight, and then you kind of like run around. I never lost my exclamation point. You know.
There were some places where you could cloak and then become the ball and hide in like little like crevices. That was an option, but they were like few and far between.
Yes.
I used that a lot.
I also used that.
That's the only time I was ever able to lose, my aggro. 100% of the other times I would like find some nook I thought I was safe in. No, he come running into me.
Yeah.
Like, come on, give me a break. Okay, that's it.
All right.
That's all I have.
Give us your frustrating out of 10.
Oh, see, I like appreciate the game for what it is. It's just not a game for me. So I'll give it a 7.
Okay. Daniel.
Yeah. I'm going to echo a lot of what Mox said, which is just that let's paint with a very broad brush here. Nintendo games tend to be games that reward clever thinking more than just like button, like skill, right?
Yeah.
Reaction times and being able to memorize the combos on where every button does something and you have to hit them in just the right order or you get, obliterated. And so as a person who Nintendo games tend to be my jam because, like Mox, when I play a game, I want it to be challenging, but I want to feel as though I am progressing. That my time is not somehow being wasted. And there were certainly moments in this game where I was like, am I playing Dark Souls? Where I'm doing a boss battle 6 or 7 or 8 times, maybe more.
Yeah.
I found the I don't know if you consider this spoilery, but I found the robot Chozo soldier battles to be just such that those to me were like the beat your head against the wall moment.
Me too.
Yep, same.
So tough, and you had to time everything so perfectly because the attacks that hit are so devastating.
Yes.
So I will say that while I was frustrated in moments, and I also had a hard time getting the motor memory for comboing, press this, hold this, aim this direction, run and shoot at the same time while charging, like those things were tough for me to get down. But I agree that it was offset by the fact that it's a beautiful game to look at. The gameplay is a lot of fun, right? When you're running through the different areas, and especially that joy of unlocking new abilities, which unlocks new areas, as is the Metroidvania want. So that part was wonderful, and I really liked it. I'm not all the way through the game, but it's a game that I want to finish. Like, it's not been so frustrating to me that I'm not even gonna worry about finishing this game. But I have realized I need to take my time with it. I need to play in spells. I need to realize, like, if I'm frustrated, put it down for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you, the Dread title is apropos. I found the sequences where you're running away or hiding from the Emmys to be very panic-inducing. Where you're like, even once you have the Omega Beam, where you're having to pinpoint the shots at their like eye reticle to melt away the shielding is so tense. Because you're just like, I'm hitting it, it's working, but oh my god, here it comes, holy crap! And then you like have to, duck under a low ledge and go to a different hallway and start over again. So that was very tense. But that said, Tyler, you were talking about how like by the end of gameplay you managed to figure out how to parry some of the Emmys' attacks, and I think I did it one time, and it felt like the biggest accomplishment I'd ever had.
Yes.
In my life.
Yep.
When I was like, yes, I am legend.
Yep.
So as far as a numerical score, I think I would give it a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. I don't know if it was a perfect game, but it certainly is a lovely game and one that I could recommend to most people.
Nice. I'll go next, and we'll end on what I assume will be a high note from Austin. Although sometimes the biggest fans of a series can be the biggest critics, so we'll see. But to me, this game was something really special. I'm not the biggest Metroid fan. I've played all of them. I beat Prime and Prime 2, and the 2D ones, I've played them all. I don't think I've finished them all. Yeah, I don't think so. But I absolutely love this game. The game was very challenging. It was one of the games where, and I had this with Axiom Verge too, where I had to put my stubbornness aside and walk away and come back to like beat a boss, or come back to the rooms with the soldiers that Daniel was talking about. Those were just really tough for me, like tougher than the bosses. For I don't know what it is, but like I was running away and trying to like, basically I would just focus on one and kill that one and then like do the other, and that seemed to really help. But it was tough. And the last boss is just insanely difficult, and I almost gave up, and I was like, I'm not going to beat it today, like I'm going to have to beat it tomorrow. Like that was one of the times where I almost like put it down, but I ended up being able to power through. And then at the very end, there's some sequence that you have to do, and I failed that, and I was like, if I have to go all the way back, I'm not playing it. Like I beat it, I'm done. I will watch the rest on YouTube or something. But I didn't have to, and I was very thankful. But yeah, the game is very hard. Sometimes, I don't know, like unexpectedly difficult. And I wasn't really expecting that, but because I was able to power through it and I did figure some stuff out, I did really, really enjoy it. I loved the gameplay. The environment was, every time you went to a new like region, and had like new music and everything, and new enemies, and so great, new backgrounds. The controls I felt were really good for movement. I was not like a huge fan of the shooting controls, which Mox touched on. I really liked all the boss battles. I liked how they made you like think. I didn't like the mini boss battles. I wasn't like a huge fan of the Emmy fights either. But the ones where you actually fought like the other bosses, like I loved. Thought they were perfect. Yeah, I did have.
Can I interject one thing on that?
Yeah, you can.
To not be too spoilery, because I know we want to avoid that. But in the first boss battle with the Thing, there's that moment near the end of that fight where you have effectively completed it, and there's that cinematic shot of Samus like casually charging her arm cannon as this thing like flounders. And to me, that was one of the most, and we'll go for the PG rating. That was one of the most badass things I've ever seen in a video game. It was just like this bounty hunter casually waiting to get the perfect kill.
Yes,
I thought that kind of stuff to me was so pitch perfect.
Yeah,
that it made the really tough boss battles worth it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Samus is badass in this game. She's all out of bubblegum. That's for damn sure.
That's a good way of putting
it.
Thank you for letting me interject.
Yeah, no worries. I did have some like I did play this not on my Switch OLED. I played it on the base Switch, the launch one.
Oh, why?
And because I was already playing it on there, and I was late to. I got my OLED, but I was just sitting with it. It took me a while to set it up and stuff. But I did have like some small like performance hiccups, especially whenever the movement got really crazy towards the end. You guys know what I'm talking about with like the yeah. I did have like some weird like frame drops. But I haven't tried on the OLED to see like, is it better? Like I know the hardware is slightly different, but it's mostly the same, so I shouldn't expect anything to be different. But I don't know. It kind of like took me out of it. I was kind of a little bummed about that. The other thing that I will say is that this game does look gorgeous, but I would not, if you upscale it to a 4K television and you're looking at it, it can kind of look kind of muddy, which is expected because it's like meant for a 1080p screen, not 4K, and it's being upscaled, etc., etc. But Just, if that really bothers you for some reason, I don't know why you're playing games on a Switch anyway, but if it does, that you may encounter that. Overall, though, I absolutely love this game. I want to play like all the 2D Metroids now, because I just absolutely love it. And
oh my god,
yeah, I would give this, for me, I would give this an 8 out of 10 for a great game that is just amazing. The only thing that really takes it down, it's like an 8 or a 9. The main thing is like I do think the difficulty could have been like, even if they had just like an easy mode where the bosses had less health or something like that, I think that,
or you had more health.
Yeah, or that, or they did less damage. I think that would have made the game more accessible, and just it would have been like 10 out of 10 because anyone could play it however they wanted. But yeah, that's me. All right, Austin, bring us home.
Okay, so as a longtime fan of the series, I really liked this game. I was gonna try to wait to get it around Christmas time, and I just couldn't. It came out, and I was just like that morning. I was just like, nope, I'm going out to buy a copy. I can't wait. And I ended up finishing it in like the first weekend or so. It might have been that Monday.
Oh, you loved it so much.
Oh god, I really did.
Aw.
One thing I was really impressed with in this entry that I haven't seen before is it's really, really good at funneling you to the next place that you're supposed to go. And in past games, there's been like, anytime there's been backtracking, it's been like, man, where the heck am I supposed to go right now? There's always like some moment of like, where the hell do I go? And this was constantly just like, it would block off stuff and strategically to be like, well, you can come back over here later if you want to go hunt for power-ups, but right now, like, this is where you probably should be going. They would do like teleports back to previous areas, but they would be spots in those areas that you hadn't been to before that you couldn't access otherwise, things like that. So I thought the backtracking was handled really well. The load times between areas was really long though, and sometimes you would like hit an elevator and then you'd like do 2 rooms, then have to use another elevator. It was just like, damn, that's a lot of load time for that. I was playing on a cartridge though, so maybe it was better as a download.
No,
I'm not sure.
I played it digital, and I was pretty okay with the loading zones.
I noticed they were a bit long, but
just like a couple of beats too long.
Yeah.
Where you suddenly became
Yes.
aware that they weren't just cutscenes, in fact, that there was something going on behind the scenes.
yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, it was like obnoxiously long on cartridge. So I know cartridges load slower, but I wanted this physical for some reason. It was just like, that's just how I wanted it. So that, I guess that's on me. But there was a kind of a weird thing where if you entered a room that was gonna like, something weird was gonna happen, like a cutscene or a boss or something like that. It wouldn't just instant load the room. It would like load to black for a split second and then the room would load. And so it was like, oh, I know something's gonna happen here. Which was
that's definitely that's a cartridge problem then, because on a digital download I never found that was so obvious to me. Like, oh, I felt it was pretty seamless,
smooth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Emmys, I wish were a little scarier.
Like looking or behavior.
Yeah, scary looking, or just like it's kind of intense when they grab you and like the way that they kill you. But I wish it was just like, you bring that just to like that PG-13 level, like just a little more gruesome, or just like a little. It's intense, but then it's like, this is kind of PG though.
Yeah.
Is that one of those moments though that what's like the thing that you can imagine is way worse than the thing they could show you? Because I found the sort of cold calculation of that to be,
They were scary.
Very scary. The fact that thing just like slips into your brain and you're done for without like big splurts of blood coming out.
It's
I don't
your
know.
chest, but yeah.
Maybe I think it depends on which one.
No, I thought they all go well.
Was it always the
I won't
chest?
spoil it.
Well, in any
I
case.
won't spoil it.
Yeah,
Is that
maybe.
considered a spoiler?
No,
on this
there's a
podcast?
reason
That's
why
so tame.
they attack you.
Okay. Well, yes, of course.
But Yeah, so like just for me personally, I like maybe just like a little, like I don't want gushes of blood, but like
Sure.
a little, just a little spurt. I don't know.
Oh my god.
I mean, Metroid's never been like a super G-rated game or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's always been kind of gross. Especially like if you look at Super Metroid, some of the ways that you kill certain bosses in there, or like the quick kill on the boss that we were talking about earlier. That's pretty gross.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did really like the mechanic for killing the Emmys. I think that fit in very well with the tension, like you were bringing up, like when you go get that temporary power up, like the fact that you have to melt their face off. That takes a long time of continuous shooting and like properly aiming while it's really tense. Then you have to like go charge up the gun before you can shoot it, and it has a long like cooldown before you can do it.
And you
again.
have to get like the spacing right too, like the distance.
Yeah, I think those moments were really cool, and I think that was a really great way to make that boss work. Especially like, I know you guys were talking about, so you can counter the Emmys, of course.
Ugh.
The timing seems random to me.
I agree.
Yeah,
like
inconsistent.
Yeah, where it's like there's a window, but at some point in that window they're gonna have the counter moment, and it's like almost frame perfect to where you, like, I'm sure a speedrunner could do it perfectly. Maybe, but for me it was just like it's almost luck based, right? To where it's not something you can count on doing. It's like if you get it, it's a miracle, and you shouldn't count on getting it. So it's kind of your last resort, and I think that was just a really well done thing. I died to Emmys a good number of times, but like it always threw me right outside the Emmy room, and I died in this game a lot. I wish it had a death counter because I died a ton. But where it would put me always felt like fair. The most annoyance that I really had was I'd be outside of a boss room where I had to blow up a few blocks and then go back in.
Right.
So Mox, when you said it just like starts putting you just straight in the boss room after a while, like I think that's, I kind of wish they would just do that from the start, but I guess they want to give you an opportunity to go keep exploring elsewhere if you want
or heal up or something.
Sorry, go ahead.
Because there wasn't always like a place to refill your energy.
Yeah.
Right before the boss, not always.
Yeah. I think the bosses were super fun. Like just all the enemies and the countering is really fun. All that was in the 3DS version. I remember playing Samus Returns on 3DS, and Mox, I had the same feeling that you did, where my hands just started to get cramped trying to do all these moves on there because it was really intense. And on here, I played on the Pro controller. I did not have that issue at all. And so maybe it might be just an issue trying to play on handheld, doing too much. I'm not sure, but I definitely remember feeling that way, especially on certain bosses on the 3DS. It was just like, oh my god, my hands. But here it felt good. I liked the way that in past games, like you got a missile, then you get a super missile, and like all these other things, like Super Metroid, you have to swap between all your power-ups. It's a real pain in the butt. And here it's just like, I know the shortcuts were kind of messing you guys up, but for me it was just like, oh, thank God, I don't have to swap something. Like I just have a button combination for that, and that felt really good. I liked that the bosses, like any boss that I was struggling with, I would struggle with it until like I learned this move, and then I learned how to deal with this move, and I learned how to deal with this move, and then finally, like on my run where I killed them, it was just like I destroyed them. They couldn't touch me, or they might have gotten me once, but it kind of forced you to learn how not to get damaged. And they even keep popping stuff up in the loading scenes when you die, like, hey, everything's avoidable, you don't have to take damage from anything in this game. And so learning those and like getting really good at the bosses was just like, it felt very satisfying. That final boss though, holy moly, he was tough.
Extremely.
I was like, oh, thank God, I'm done. Oh no, I gotta do more. It was very tough, and I did have to walk away like you did, Tyler, for a little bit before I came back and finally kicked his butt. But it felt good. I did like the story, the lore. The end was super cool. I would have liked to have really seen I won't go into what happens at the end, but I would have liked to have seen that become like a mechanic in the next game that can be explored, but it sounds like that's not going to happen. I really, really enjoyed this. I never really got lost, or if I did, it was for minutes, not for like tens of minutes, which just was super impressive.
Which is a big difference.
I think, yeah, it's a big difference compared to previous games. Even like Fusion, I remember every time I play Fusion, there's one part where I get stuck and I'm just like, where the heck am I supposed to go? I've played this 5 times and I still can't remember what I'm supposed to do at this part. But my main issue with this game is that it feels, so Switch is it's a console and it's a handheld. It's their hybrid, right? And they're treating every game that comes out for it like or at least they're pricing all their games that come out for it like they're console games, right? If you look back at like when you've got the Wii U and the 3DS, you've got your Wii U games coming out that are $60, and you got your 3DS games that are coming out that are $40. And this feels like a portable game for them, and it doesn't feel like a $60 game.
I agree.
For the Switch. It's short, which I like because there's not a bunch of fluff, but it's side-scrolling. The graphics are not spectacular, even for a Switch game. Like, if you look at Mario Odyssey or something like that, like, that's a gorgeous game. When you're playing this, there's just like you said, sometimes there's performance dips, there's a lot of graphical stuff that's just like, I mean, I'll take this for what it is, but also, this is not like a AAA release in terms of graphical prowess or mechanics. A lot of the mechanics in this game are pulled straight from their 3DS game, right? So it's like it almost seems like they're using maybe the same engine.
I can see that.
And that was a $40 game, right? So it feels weird. Like, I like this game. I don't regret buying it, but it feels like it should have been a $40 game. And I think Nintendo needs to kind of have that line of, hey, Link's Awakening DX, that's really like a handheld type game. $40, right?
Yeah. You're talking about the remake that came out?
Yeah, the remake. Yeah. Not DX. I shouldn't have said DX. That's the Game Boy Color.
But then, like, Breath of the Wild,
anyways,
the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
or
Breath
whatever,
of the Wild.
You know?
Yeah, and like do your $60 game, have your season pass, whatever. Like I'm into it. That works. But anyways, I really like this game. I really hope that they don't stop using Samus as a character. I liked that they didn't do any Zero Suit Samus stuff in this one. I didn't know, Zero Suit Samus is great. I don't think that needed to happen here at all. And I'm glad they just were like, nope, not gonna do it. And yeah, this was just really great. I hope we see Samus show up in whatever their next game is. They keep doing like 2D style Metroid games, even if they're like at different points of the timeline or whatever. I don't know. But I really hope that it continues on. I would give this an 8 out of 10.
Oh my gosh! You wouldn't give it a 10?
Liked it. No, I don't. Nothing gets 10s
That's
for
true.
me. You can get pretty close. I really liked it, but I had some problems with it. And but 8. If a game gets an 8 from me, I really liked it. I might have even loved it, and I did love this game.
Well, that's awesome. That was our little dive and our takes on Metroid Dread. If you enjoyed hearing us discuss Metroid Dread and want to join us for the next regular Video Game Club episode, stay put. Because the vote just ended, and it was between Cadence of Hyrule, WarioWare, Get It Together, and Cultist Simulator. And the winner, with 9 votes, Cultist Simulator.
Yay!
So thank you everyone who voted, except the ones who voted for Cultist Simulator.
Yay!
So in other words, not thank you to most of you.
I'm kidding, but yeah, it'll be fun to check it out. And thank you everyone.
It's relaxing. It's chill.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
Keep going.
That is not my experience with that game.
I'm excited to check it out. Thank you everyone for joining. Again, just as a reminder, you can catch us here on twitch.tv twitch.tv/Bombchu TV every 2 weeks at 2 Eastern, with the next stream being on November 7th. Or if you can't make the live session, don't worry. You can find the episode up on YouTube and all major podcast services. Now, before we leave, is there anything that you would like to plug, Daniel?
Yeah, we would love to have you come and listen to Nerd Association. Like I said, I am co-host with my co-host is Mark Finch. We release a new episode every week talking about pop culture, video games, nerd stuff. You can find us on Twitter at NerdAssoc. That's NERD_ASSOC. And of course, you can download Nerd Association wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Oh my gosh.
Yay.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Austin, anything you want to plug, or Mox? No?
Mox, what you got?
Well, I was just going to
Final
say,
Fantasy 14?
no, I was going to say make sure you check out Daniel's podcast, but then also don't immediately listen to ours afterwards, because the quality of theirs is like, they just are sound engineers and have like way nicer technology. Just like wait a little bit and then listen to ours. But do
You
listen to
flatter me.
Daniel's.
Aw.
That's it.
Two things can be true. You can listen to both.
Yeah. The only thing that I want to plug is I'm working on the Xbox Game Pass video, capturing footage and writing up my script for October. It's been pretty crazy month. They just add like a ton of games, and they added some really spooky stuff that scared me. But I played it anyway, and I had to play with all the lights on and during daytime because I was very scared. But yeah, I will talk about that in that video. Austin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Mox, thank you as always for joining.
Thank you.
And Daniel, thank you for making a special guest appearance.
Absolutely. We'll have to return the favor on Nerd Association very soon.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm Tyler. This was Video Game Club, episode 35, Metroid Dread, and we're out.